it's tough to really ask yourself what you like.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, are you going to just go film porn or something? Well, it's like, not that. I do have to care what some people think, but. That's all, folks, except it's not all, folks. That's beginning, folks.
You started too early.
I did?
Yeah, there was still a countdown. We have a countdown for recording at Mum Studios, and then it starts recording, and Ramin was just so excited, just revving to go, that he had his bibbity bap boom bams going.
Bibbity bap bap boom. Yeah, everyone has a tendency, like, you know, in the musical world, everyone has a tendency to rush or to drag, and I'm definitely a Russian. I remember there was an orchestra teacher, and we were playing like some Russian music. It's like, hey, just because it's Russian doesn't mean you gotta rush.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh yeah. Well, it was
a horrible year.
So that's it. So that's like people get ahead of the beat or the scale or whatever.
Yeah, you come in too early, or you're like a little bit behind, and
I wonder what I was.
Sometimes that's good. I don't know.
I was when I played trombone, I don't know what I was. Playing trombone was so weird. I sometimes still want to. I wonder if I can play the slide whistle like a trombone.
Do
it. Not really. but maybe I'd be awful at trombone as well today.
Can you do a regular like slide, like if someone's looking at something and they think it's cleavage, and then it turns out it's the plumber's ass crack, and then you go. The opposite.
Yeah, I guess. I just got this thing, so I wouldn't say that I'm a slide whistle expert just yet, but as you could tell, I'm getting pretty good in a hurry. And that is only the 6th time my lips have graced that slide whistle, so clearly I was just born to play it. I got the goods.
Good keeping track. Most people lose track after like 3 or 4, but you remember that.
I write everyone down on the calendar. Yeah, every time.
Really?
Yep. Played the slide whistle. The only thing I write on my calendar. Are you a calendar? You keep track?
I just bought one for the first time in 2 years. I get into calendars. Yeah, I get into calendars. Then it doesn't work. I don't use it, and then I forget for a while. I'm like, no, now I'm a calendar boy. Now it's going to work. This one comes with stickers, so watch out.
Oh, we definitely have to do the Mum calendar next year. We thought of the idea. By the time we thought of the idea and had things ready to go, it was already December last year, but everything we picked was awesome, and they're going to look great, but we need to order them in bulk and get a sense of how many we're going to sell, and it's a whole thing. Do you screw around with Google calendars, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Are you good with it?
That is no, not at all. Because my calendar is too open. So if you have to look at stuff every day, if I have scheduled stuff every day, that's easy to have a habit. But if I have one recording that I have to do next week, why am I going to look every day? I'm just going to forget and then miss it and then get a text saying, where are you? And then I have to come up with some amazing excuse about my whole family dying, or I have AIDS, or I don't know if it's COVID, but I need to get it checked out. Sorry, today's been a little hectic. And if they had a camera in my place, it's not hectic.
One day someone's going to meet your whole family and they're going to be like, wait a second.
Yeah, I should have just gone one by one. I shouldn't have used them all up at once.
I actually guess I do have not the worst memory. I feel like my memory for actually timing of things is not awful. It's not bad. It's not like my name memory is just pure garbage. But my memory for like when I have to do something is good enough anyway that I'm like, you got this, Shane. You don't even need to put that one in the calendar. And actually, it's shocking how much I actually do keep track of. And like, it'll be something 3 weeks will go by because I'll be out and about and be like, oh, I'll write that down when I get home or something like that. I'll put that in the Google Calendar. And then I'll forget. And then the day before I'm supposed to do an interview or something like that, it'll just pop up in my brain. I'm like, oh, that one. Yep. And I'll look, sure enough. And
nice.
And then once in a while there'll be, and then when it rains at port, it'll always be like the same person. It'll be one person where my brain will just forget any appointment that I make with them. So I'll remember every guest that I never write down, but then one guest will really get the treatment where I've rescheduled with them like 5 times because I keep on forgetting and not doing a thing. And then I just can't contact them anymore because I'm just this piece of shit that showed up in their life out of nowhere. I told them I was going to have them on a podcast that they probably weren't even that interested in doing. And then scheduled like 5 times and then forgot each time. That happens like once a year. I do that, but for the most part, I've done that.
I've done that to people. I won't say their names, but I've done that to people, and then they tell me that, I mean, this has only happened once, but they said that they got terrible medical news, and so they can't do it anymore. But I'm wondering if it's just because I rescheduled them so many times. And then I asked like if everything was okay, do you need money or anything? And then no reply afterwards. So this boy who cried wolf. I try not to do it. None of this behavior I'm proud of. I'm way better than I was, but just you shouldn't say yes to stuff and then that version of you have no accountability for them.
Probably my favorite thing. So this isn't an advice column, and I already know ahead of time from peeking at some of the things that I'm going to pick the ones from Patreon. We also posted on Instagram, and Ramin's going to read some of those. But I know that some of this conversation already is relevant to some of the advice, the questions that we were going to get into. But one of the things that I'll say is that probably one of my favorite things about aging or being over 40 is it does feel like things like that start to get a little easier. It seems
really?
like the 10th go of it, like I suck with calendars. I don't suck as bad. And then like 5 years later, I'm like, why was I ever bad at calendars? Like now I just have this perfect system, whereas most people would have never taken that long. They could implement it in a week and whatever else. But
so you're physical and digital?
I'm just digital, but I want to do physical for other things, for like I want to cross off a day when I haven't done something. And or when I did do something, or I want to like put a sticker on a thing. I'm just a big believer that I need to like get through to whatever stupid child part of my brain where all this mess started, where I avoided school and everything else. Like just need some stickers and stuff like that. I like need to do something to like get through to my subconscious that it's okay to like get a little responsibility in your life and like get on top of, and you are capable of doing this, because I just have this story of being like just grotesquely like disorganized and messy person that I don't
imagine
need
healing stories.
Yeah.
Could you imagine healing the stories that limit us?
I mean, I think you can't have your. You
can, but it's kind of like a dented soda can in a way. Like it'll never be pristine.
Oh, no.
It's like almost.
We aren't shooting for pristine here. No, if you're shooting for pristine, that's just gonna make it crush more. But yeah, the dented soda can is what we're going for here on the Mind Under Matter podcast.
Yeah.
We aren't the podcast for breaking through every barrier and being at the top of your this and that anything. We're the 0 to somethings. We're the like, let's see if you can get some of like the major dents out of the used car of the jalopy. Let's see if you can take the jalopy of a life that you're dragging.
What's a jalopy? I've just heard it a sloppy jalopy.
It's just like a junky car, like
a lemon,
like a really really old like falling apart car.
I wonder if it's Italian. Like it was some Italian guy with a bad car.
Hey, it's a jalopy.
It's like a jalopy car. Sounds like it's going to be on a charcuterie plate. We got salami, capricola, and some pastrami, and some jalopy.
So
that was a brilliant bit I did. I'm writing it down.
I'm sure it was, and I wasn't listening because I was looking up jalopy. My apologies. I wish I was as good of a listener as you are. That's another thing I would like to work on, but again, one of those
tell
things
that to my wife
continues to jalopy is a term that has
she was telling me about like active listening.
Dangerfield just made an appearance.
Hey.
She was telling you about active listening.
Oh, well, it's one of her friends was talking about active listening, and then I had never heard active listening, or I just got curious about active listening. I was like, I wonder if I'm an active listener. And then I looked up the article about it while she's talking to me. So in doing that, in that moment, funny. I was not active listening.
But you are. I think it's why you're such a good improviser. The jalopy is a term.
I just love thinking of bad stand-ups do it to improv and improvs do it to stand-up. Like there's no shortage of improvisers that are like, oh, what's the deal with airplane food? So I'm single. You know what I look like. And then stand-ups making fun of improvisers like, oh, nice car, a nice slushy machine. Stupid friendship idiots. And then you stupid loner drug addicts.
Exactly.
And at least 10 of us make money.
Stereotypes are true. They're so true.
Have we talked about how improvisers, before they go on stage, they all huddle up and they go, I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. And they're serious. And then stand-ups are often like, don't fuck this up.
Don't do too good before I go on. Like, people get told to take it down a little bit. You aren't the show. So you get a lot of like notes before you go on about like not swearing and stuff like that when you're starting out. And for people that don't know, why would you know? You start out and then you work with like some road hack who's like whole thing is that they're old, but they have a foul mouth and people think that's funny. And so their crutch is swear words because this is, you have to understand, I started like 18 years ago. So veterans at that time. So we're talking like when these people started 30 years ago, saying a swear word on stage was like, people were like, this is outrageous. And now it's just nothing but prolapsed rectal humor to just like barely move the needle. but because that would be like their crutch, if you were new and starting out, they'd be like, hey, can you keep it clean up there? And then you'd be like, oh, okay, sure. They must have like a family friendly audience that they are hoping to curate. And what it is they know all their swears have that gusto that, they need, and they don't want you burning up that fuck juice.
I've never been a giant headliner before, but could you imagine telling the opening act to not do stuff?
The only thing that I've ever done was tell people to like be themselves or do what they'd normally do. Like the only time I'd run into things was if like stand-up science or my psychedelic tour, especially with my psychedelic tour. I travel around. I'd just be like, hey, who's a good comic in, whatever, in Oklahoma City or whatever. And not like who's good for this psychedelic show, just like who's funny, like especially if they're like kind of toward the smarter side or whatever. And I would have to tell people, please don't, you can do whatever you want, but please don't try to like hash out psychedelic material that you just like, oh, I'm going to do a psychedelic show. I better write LSD material or whatever. Please just do what act you would normally do at any other show. Because if you do psychedelic material, they're here to hear me talk about psychedelic material. Yours isn't going to be as good as mine anyway. And they're going to like find it annoying. Please just like do your fucking thing and it'll be awesome. And that was a really tough one to get through to people. And then they'd pull out their notebook and do like shitty fucking weed jokes. Because the real problem, it wasn't that minor. It was that like most drug jokes are so fucking stupid. They're so like, I got high and ate too much. Whoa, forgot things. Yeah. And like, I can't have that before me for people that are in the room wondering what this show is going to be. Think like, oh, this is what the show is going to be, because now they're in a bad mood by the time that it gets
they listened stage. After you gave them that note, right? Because they probably thought they were being helpful. Yeah. Like I'm staying on theme, and I'll show that I'm a good writer.
Yeah. It wasn't that big a deal, but it's just like it's the only time I've ever given a note. And one other time.
We've talked about first 10, right? Before. I know I'm doing that thing a lot where I say, we've talked about a blank before, right? But hey, what? Hey. But in this course I took on advertising in college, one of the things was taught was a first 10 idea. And you didn't want to use a first 10 idea. And they would demonstrate that when you come up with a premise and everyone is writing like the first 10 ideas they come up with, there's so much overlap and you want to push past the first 10. And a lot of people think that their first 10 ideas, because they thought of it like, this is brilliant, but it's probably the first 10 things that anyone would have thought of. So right.
Yeah, that's always, there's a lot of first premise stuff out there. That's why characters get ahead so much. People that are just sound so unique, because most people are doing the same shtick anyway. So it's like, well, this guy does it with lots of energy. It tends to like, sometimes get ahead out on like the road and stuff, not necessarily the people that like make it. Okay, a jalopy is a term that has been used since the 1920s, popularized in all forms of media as evidenced by the car that comic book character Archie drove his pals around in Riverdale. And that's, so what
I wonder if that's in the Netflix show.
It's a cheap, some car dealership made their bones by selling beat up cars for very little money. That's a jalopy. Just beat up old cars.
But it doesn't say where the name came from?
No.
I mean, it came from Archie, but it's just a random word they made up.
I guess so. Yeah.
Did you ever read Archie? I don't know what it's about. I imagine it's about the main redhead character who can't decide whether he wants blonde woman or a dark-haired woman. And then there's also a guy with a king hat that eats hamburgers. And that's the whole premise, right?
I have no idea.
And then there's the mean principal. He's like, pick one girlfriend. And he's like, no.
That would be a
both
fun show.
Betty and Veronica.
That would be a fun show of going back to just some of the earliest shows in TV history or comic books or whatever, and just repitching them today, but like they never existed, you know, just like a lazy
Isn't
cat.
that already happening?
There's not a pitch show like that. That's just
which one?
It just like as a sketch or something like that. Just some show that's like pitching the idea of old things that were popular then but would be awful ideas today. Like you know, like I have this great idea for a cat. It could be like a whole series. It's super lazy, hates Mondays, loves lasagna.
Yeah, you work your way up to that. It's like, I'm thinking cat, like he'd be like an orange, kind of yellowish orange character. Not pure orange, of course. Like you could have some stripes on him. Not quite like a zebra or not quite like cheetah. But
how often do you think people are going to want to read this? Oh, every week they're going to want updates on what this
every day for 50 years. How is there still Garfield? How is there still Dilbert? How is there still
what I'm saying.
They like, still make new ones.
Crap. It's just nostalgic or something. Okay, I got something for you. American automobiles had been created at such a rapid rate in the roaring 20s that secondhand cars were often shipped to Canada and Mexico. Both nations lacked the same auto production as the United States. Many of these cars were put in ships and transported to Mexico's port in the state of Veracruz, then transported to the capital of the state, Jalapa. Which
Jalapi.
do you think it's actually spelled Jalapa? It's got to be Jalapa, right? Like how it's
Jalapa with some hot tamales.
I would think, but yeah. And then in America, you're just like, yeah, it's a jalopy. That means that. So it's basically just like that's something you ship down to Mexico, just a secondhand car. So anyway,
wouldn't it be cool if we got a Roaring 20s? I thought we were going to get one and then immediately, you're lucky to get like a little bit of steam 20s.
You're getting a crying 20s. We got like a very, like a screaming and agony 20s kind of.
Yeah, the 20s have so far, I mean, we started Mum during it, which is great. Yeah. But other than that, the 20s have kind of been.
No, not great.
That was it.
All right, let's get into the advice column episode. So that's all the advice giving boys of comedy. We're here to either mock you for your problems or to get you from like horribly problematic jalopy. We're gonna pull a dent out of it. We're gonna like fix. We're aiming to like fix a taillight so you can still drive the thing. We're not changing your life. Yeah, it's
not going to be the same color.
You're still not going to want to pick up a date in your life. You're still going to worry about your life breaking down, but at least maybe you can just drive it to work without worrying about getting pulled over. That's what our aim is. So
one less dent in the countless amount of dents that we all have.
Exactly.
But people like hearing that. People like hearing that we're all a mess. We love seeing that even the people at the very top are a mess.
And we are.
Like, we don't like seeing people commit suicide, but the silver lining of seeing like a big, rich, famous person taking their life is like, oh, they were struggling too.
Mm-hmm.
Silver lining. Yeah. But other than that, it's bad. Don't do it.
Well, let's start out with a mess one then. This is
what you got? You
this is
first?
from Max Taylor. No, it's Max Naylor. I'm allergic
Max
to names.
Naylor.
Naylor. I'm allergic to names. I can't read them. I can't remember them. Nothing. Can't pronounce them. Max says, "How do you find what you want to do with your life? I've had many jobs and nothing ever seems to work out. I haven't found that one thing, and I'm almost 40. It's all so mundane and pointless." Love it. I love a good period of pointless, existential. What's it all about? Nothing's worth doing. Not a lot of people talk about that. I resonate with it. It feels real. When I read that, I'm like, you aren't lying. Been there. And I know that sucks, Max. So we're here to say things that probably aren't going to help much.
I would say, like, we've heard endless times that it's not about finding the one thing, and careers change, and
yes,
you can reinvent yourself. Start small and try different stuff on.
Yes,
and take chances and get out of your comfort zone more. And I know that every part of our being wants to not listen to that and be like, no, stay in comfort zone. But it is tough. We're modeling ourselves after people we see that are passionate about one thing and figured it out. Like, remember I said the rock climbing guy, Alex Honnold, that's not what he sounded like. That's just what I sounded like for a second. But someone asked him what he would do if he didn't do climbing. And he said, oh, I don't know. I would probably just be a low level accountant somewhere. I'd probably be pretty lost. I'm glad I found that to latch on to. And many other people have that. And I don't even consider myself to have that. I don't have a thing where it's like, art is my life or music is my life. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of doing stuff.
Well, as someone who had that, like, stand up, I think is why I now today still have an odd relationship with, like, if I even want to do stand up more or whatever else, is because that was from the age of 9 years old, the one thing. It's all I thought about. It's all I cared about. There wasn't going to be any other option. Literally, when I started, I was like, I got 5 years to make it. Otherwise, I'm just going to kill myself. That's it. And I did make it.
I've heard that from so many people.
And I was like, oh, like, this is like, that was like decades of buildup to like get there more. And then I was like, so, I did find the thing and was successful with the thing. And now I'm almost 42 and I don't know what the fuck to do with my life. And oftentimes it feels pointless and mundane to me as well. But that's also just like periods that I go through. And sometimes I'm thrilled and excited, like Mind Under Matter. I'm like, this isn't something we set out. You can hear, if you go back to episode 0, you can hear how this happened. Just a couple boys goofing around, going to be on each other's podcast. And then like, why don't we do a show? And then this is the thing that I'm like,
yeah. And then,
all right, this is my path. This is what I'm focusing on. And I love putting work into it, and it fills me, I have someone just today, I was looking at someone putting a comment about how it's their favorite podcast and filled with pride and everything. What? And
don't tell them about all the other podcasts.
I know. I try to keep them a secret. And so, I think, to me, when I read this, I go, well, your biggest problem is the word one right there. The one thing. That's your biggest problem. If you think that there's one thing, if you think that there's a silver bullet, like, great. If you find something like that, if you find the Alex Hull, whatever his name is, rock climbing thing, Honnold, And you might, like, when I started finding, when I discovered rock climbing, I was like, oh, this is how I can actually get exercise and get in shape. I couldn't get myself to regularly go to the gym. I couldn't get myself to, but I did this as like a goof, or like, I think it was a Valentine's Day gift, like a couples thing that I got for me and my lady at the time. And was like, oh, this is my thing. I haven't rock climbed in like 2 years or whatever, but it was my thing for a while and got me like,
but that's because you broke your feet.
And, yeah. But it like started getting,
you know, those Richard
place.
Scarry books?
No.
You know, Richard Scarry books, like the book, the kids' books with the worm driving the apple and the pig that's the chef and the cat mailman, and you know what I'm talking about?
I think so, actually.
So I think they need to redo these books because it's instilling in everyone's mind that people have career identities, which is just, it's so hard to have that now. It should be remade where no one has a set career. Everyone's trying to make it by with the gig economy, and they're doing 100 different things. And there's only one character that has a full career passion thing. And then you learn their parents were like rich actors or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love hearing that stuff. Like when you see a new pop star or something that's the number one star, I'm like, let me see what their background is. Oh, okay. They come from an entertainment family and they've got this thing. They were homeschooled.
Right.
Like so many things. There was like almost sculpted into that. Not that you can't do it without that, but just it's normal to be frustrated and lost and not know what your one thing is. I think that's more the case than the opposite.
And you might be surprised what you find on the other side of 42, which is that, like, I've found the cliche to be true, that once you are like in the second half of life, you just start thinking like, oh, like I'm on the second half of life now.
If you're lucky.
Really, if I'm lucky, that is.
I might be in the last quarter.
Yeah, easily.
I could have some weird brain thing that's like 1 in 100,000 people, and I just have a stroke in 3 days, and that's it.
You just get thinking about those things more and more until you're like, oh, like I know from when I go to pickleball, a lot of the conversation is about various health problems and injuries and things like that. But
and diet probably too, right? So I've only been eating chicken, fish, lemons. You like that when people are just describing what they eat all day?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of that, but I also think that one thing that I've learned from doing things that are like growing up as a child, like, wow, how do you get on TV or all of these things that seem so big, these like status seeking things that I think men especially are attracted to, is that like, it's a racket. If you see a guy on top that's like really acting like king of the hit, like that's just a person that isn't terribly self-aware, and maybe that lack of self-awareness has propelled them to like that favorable position or whatever, and good for them, because if they really realize like how little of a difference it fucking really makes to make, you can be Elon Musk and you're still gonna die and be like this part of millions of years of evolutionary history, and like
Steve Jobs died in his 50s, right?
Yeah,
he wasn't even in his 60s yet, and he had every resource imaginable and couldn't beat that thing. I know there was talk of him only trying holistic stuff. I think he tried both though. I think he tried regular medicine and then resorted to holistic stuff.
Yeah.
To try to hedge his bets, get everything. But
right.
Yeah. What's that quote? The Ozymandias, behold, I am king of all things. Behold, my empire of dirt.
Yeah.
Whatever the line is.
Yeah.
Just no matter how high up you get, it's still temporary. So enjoy it while you're here.
And on the other side of it, I think of a friend of mine that I knew since we were really young. I think I first noticed
Tough guy friend?
Nope. we were, I don't want to say his name just because,
say someone else's name.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's a friend of mine who's always been super smart. I remember first got my attention in 4th grade because it was like in math class, and we had like a speed test thing, or like you fill out the test and everyone hands it in early, or you raise your hand when you're done or whatever. And I took the test and I'm like, just, and then like he was done before me, and I'm like, what? It was the only thing I was ever good at. So I was like, who is this guy that beat me at math? And he was he was the first person I smoked weed with, and super smart, super funny guy. And then people that know him are gonna know. But anyway, he like we both were like fuck ups quite a bit, like drank a fuckload and everything else, like really early on in our 20s and everything, and got into all sorts of trouble. And then he kind of floated around just doing like whatever jobs for a while, and then he wanted to be a geologist, and it's like just crazy smart. And I always thought like, oh, finally he's kind of like use all of his intelligence and everything. And it turns out geologist jobs are not the easiest thing in the world to get. And so he's still just been, a manager at a store, and now has a kid and stuff. And we talked recently, and he was just like, yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of like liking the man. It's like kind of low stress and I'm enjoying it. I have a second kid on the way, and it's just kind of fine. And like, I'm looking forward to doing more dad's stuff, and like getting a house and fixing it up more, and maybe like flipping houses more. And then, my kids are going to be out in 20 years, and I don't want to like do a thing that takes me away from and then that'll be like time for retirement anyway. And he just seemed like probably if you would have showed him saying that before he started going to school or earlier on, he would have thought like, oh, well, that's what failing looks like. Mm-hmm. But he seemed like the happiest and most at peace and together that I've known him my whole life. That's
a character arc.
I've seen him. Exactly.
That's a real human character arc. Mm-hmm. to receive the fate that you once thought was just the epitome of failure, and then see it as success later on, and also not care that past you would have seen that as failure, because what does past you know? It just wants the typical rock star life, or maybe not rock and roll musician style. Maybe it's like high status actor, or like the best doctor that's known the most and gets the most status stuff. But
we're all just
it falls
children
away.
Growing out of candy, basically. Like, oh yeah, that just doesn't do it for me the same way that it used to. Like, oh, ring pop. Remember when you were a kid?
It's crystal, and it's a jewel
put it
that
on
you
your
eat.
finger, and you can lick it. Like, holy shit! Like, you couldn't pay me to eat a ring pop. No, that's not true. You could pay me to eat a ring pop, but I'm not buying it from a store. And that's what much of...
I'm only buying it from someone off the street.
Much of your goals is just a ring pop. Your preferences change, your tastes change, and a lot of failure is just like, I never got the ring pop. And it's like, oh, you actually wouldn't like it that you're into potatoes now more than you ever thought you were going to be when you were that age. Just embrace that you like potatoes now and make the most of those.
Yeah, I wanted to be a successful geologist, but now I'm just a potato dad. I suck ass to most people, but to me, I'm a big success, which I do believe in that. I heard this, Steve Vai, right? The virtuosic guitar player, played with himself,
Terrible
but
names.
with Zappa and with, David Lee Roth and White Snake and stuff, like big name in the 80s, 90s, but still keeps with it. But in an interview recently, he talked about, music isn't my life. A lot of people say like music is my life. And he's like, it's not my life. It's something I do in life. And, that falls away because my body like won't be able to do it forever, and just everything entropies and falls apart, and that's okay because there's other things, but there's never a thing that's my life because it can always go away. So just adopt that mentality of whatever activity you think is your life, just that it's going to go away eventually. And I really liked that.
Yeah. And I guess the moral of my friend's story wasn't that like he gave up on being a geologist. Like he could still like put his blood, sweat, and tears into like getting more education to become one. He just like kind of life kept on changing. And now he's just like, oh, I kind of would rather, I care more about this other stuff instead now than that other goal. But anyway, so I would, and also the other thing is like, especially if you're a guy and you start getting over 40, like whatever dumb evolved things of like, of like, oh, they're older, so they must know more or whatever else. You just start, people just trust you to like, do jobs better or whatever. Like no one wants to hire a 20-year-old guy because they're just gonna like show up hungover half the time and like fuck up things and everything else. But once you start getting like over 40, people are like, I bet that guy will like show up on time and do things. Guys are like a little slow to mature and stuff too. So you might be surprised what just like a little bit of age can create some opportunity. And
it's the best time ever to not to be successful doing something that before who would have thought would be successful. Like I'll see people on TikTok that are just a music teacher for kindergarten or something, or they study bees. It's like Linda, the bee lady. I live in Onalaska, Wisconsin, or wherever they live in, and just they're huge, and all they do is just beekeeping, and they just make videos every now and then, and people love just ordinary stuff now, whereas before the ordinary was who cares, it's all about the big fast cars and the important celebrity people. But now you can, not that it's all about having big followings, but just success in general, you can have it with what used to be the mundane.
Yeah, one day you might be like, oh, I like listening to old school rap, and I like taking pictures of my weird looking dog or videos of my weird looking dog when it does silly things. Maybe I combine these two things.
We could do that next week and like not have to worry about finances for mom forever.
I love those accounts too, by the way. I was just looking at one today where I'm like, that fucking dog is hilarious looking. And that's the perfect rap song to put over the way that dog looks right now. You know?
Yeah.
And that's like, that was just the person that had, I don't think, any big Hollywood aspirations or anything, just probably did a funny thing to like do it for their friends or whatever. Like Bo Burnham, when he started when he was a teenager, I mean, he was always in theater and everything else, but he literally just made a music video to send to his brother, just sent it to his brother for a joke. And then his brother was like, what the hell? And like sent it to a bunch of his friends. And then his friends just sent it around to a shitload of people. And Bo Burnham.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but not that. But anyhow, that's all. It's amazing. And like if Bo Burnham would have never got discovered, he still would have just sent an awesome, fun music video to his brother and made his brother's day. Like either way, that was a win.
I would recommend to see, go watch Everything Everywhere All at Once.
People
if
keep
you're
talking about that.
Yeah, but specifically because of this reason, because it really touches on thinking you're a failure in all the other possible multiverses and how close you are to have been something else in another timeline and things like that. And you actually are all of them, and no spoilers or anything, but I think it'll really hit you good if you're in a place of career woes of just, what am I doing? I'm almost 60. Actually, being almost 60 is fine because you're like, whatever, I'm almost done. But being almost 40, you're like, no, there's only a few decades left to really become something. And I don't want this incarnation to have just been one of those ones that no one would have ever picked. It has to be a very pickable one, a life someone would have wanted to live.
Yeah.
Which is also a trap because you're thinking about what other people would have liked.
Yeah.
Instead of what you like. It's tough to really ask yourself what you like.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, well, are you going to just go film porn or something? Well, it's like, not that. I do have to care what some people think, but like,
what do I like? I'm going to film porn.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. It's what I love. I got over it after a week, but that stuff's out there forever now. So that was weird.
What's even funnier was my interpretation of what you said was someone actually wanting to be the camera.
Oh, to film it, yeah.
And not even be in the porn.
Oh no! I could never do what you do. I'm always been a more behind the scenes kind of person.
All right, you want to read one off of Instagram?
Yeah, we've got some good ones here. Let me tell you. Oh, this one is. I think we can get this one quick, and I don't want it to be too similar to the last question, but dyswis.music says, "Hey y'all. Do you think a musician who has no desire for social popularity could grow a loyal and large following? Any advice on bridging that gap?" Which it sounds contradictory. It's because you want no social popularity, but you also want to grow a large loyal following, which it sounds like they're contradictory. But I would just say do it like Daft Punk, where you don't have to record it as your name. Your name doesn't have to be part of it, but you can create an entity that's doesn't look like you, doesn't have your name, and then it's just about the music. And you heard about when Daft Punk hired two people to wear those robot masks and walk around the Grammys, and then they just walked around without the masks on, and no one knows what those dudes look like, so no one approached them once. Everyone's looking after looking at those robot mask people, and then they're just nonchalantly
actually enjoy it.
Yeah, nice. Which is brilliant if you want anonymous fame. So I would recommend doing that. Create some character, make a mask. Don't ever show your face for it. Just release the stuff. Doesn't even have to be an interesting name. Release music as X217, whatever Elon Musk's kid's name is. Just name it Elon Musk's Kid. That's the new band name. Literally call it Elon Musk's Kid.
A bad idea. Elon Musk's Kid is a pretty good band name. It's gonna get that Google traffic too, and then especially if you're good, if you're like, "What's this? What is that?" They accidentally click and then find their new favorite band.
Yeah, because didn't Donald Glover did that too? He released music as Childish Gambino, and he just put it into a Wu-Tang Clan name generator, and that's what came up when he just entered in randomized Wu-Tang. Yeah, Childish Gambino, and maybe he wanted to test the waters first because he didn't know how people would react to him doing that, and then later on is fine with it being him. But no, it's so easy to do that. It's not like it's impossible to set up another email address or another Instagram account or SoundCloud account. We could all make hundreds of those accounts. We just don't because we don't feel like it. But
I'm now picturing Donald Glover being like timid about timid Donald Glover as a funny character. I don't know if this childish Campino is gonna work out, but I guess I'll try to take my shirt off for this video and like do these fucking bombastic themes and stuff.
No, he's an interesting mix of he's a nerd, but he's a brilliant actor, performer, showman, everything.
Yeah,
probably still deals with that doubt even after all the success.
I just watched the first episode of Atlanta, and I should maybe consider giving it a try.
I should see that. I love Don Glover. I should see it. You heard that bit, right? When he did stand up, he like talked about his Instagram handle being Don Glover and not realizing that it's spelled Dong Lover. That's a good one. We all do it. Our names sound like genitals.
Let's see here. We got
So yeah, start a Daft Punk robot mask thing. That's what I tell to dyswis.music.com.
We had. Did you mention me breaking my feet or something? Yeah, during climbing.
I did, because that's why you stopped climbing.
Smooth transition into Mitch Drew, who just got an art episode as well. People go in streaks on our Patreon of some people being really active for a little while, and so then they get mentioned in a bunch of episodes. It's a good strat. Highly recommended. He says, when recovering from your injuries and strategies, it says surgeries. It says surgeries.
Actually, we do sometimes recover from our strategies.
When recovering from our injuries and surgeries, as discussed in, oh my God, I am the second worst reader in the world. There, I just zoomed in so I can see it better. When recovering from your injuries and surgeries, he's talking to me, as discussed in the My Big Break episode. How did you cope with the more difficult moments where it didn't feel like you were ever going to get better and you were missing out on so much? What sort of things did you tell yourself and do to get out of that mindset and focus on your progress? I'm currently 6 weeks into recovering from leg surgery after a bad ski injury, so I'm at the point where I feel like I should be capable of much more than I am right now, even though I know it's a process. So, first of all, when they tell you things like, oh, it's going to take 4 to 8 weeks to recover or whatever, so you're like, 6 weeks, I should be recovered, I would take it real easy with that. I mean, I had more complications because I got a bone infection and things, so mine was like smashed, and feet are weird to do surgeries on, and plus bone infection, second surgery, blah, blah, blah. So it lasted much longer than it should have. But I remember early on of just like, but I have gigs coming up. Like it'll recover. And the doctor being like, saying it was going to, I remember their reaction when I was like, how long before they'd be like, ooh. I'd be like, oh, come on. And then it's funny that we're such social animals, and there's this sense of fairness that we have because most of our lives are so social that fairness and understanding what's fair is so built into our morality and sense of justice and things like that, that we then apply fairness to like viruses or bones or like diseases or like whatever things that fairness has nothing to do with anything, but your brain is just equipped to think that it does. And so I just remember being like, that doesn't seem, for me, it'll probably be on the short side. That seems like I recover from things fast and I'm tough or whatever else, or young or whatever. I have a high tolerance for pain. And boy, was I wrong. It lasted
2 years, right?
So much longer.
Or no, 1 year.
Well, so then the worst part was it was 1 year on crutches. And then I got to start using a cane again. And that was when things got really, because before that, it was almost like when I was really laid up, the first couple months, it was the least depressed that I was. Just even before that, it was depressing to get injured, but then I was not depressed because there was just nothing I could do but lay around and rest and just work on other stuff. So it also gave my brain to be like, usually my brain's like, what's like depression and anxiety are things that will just pop up in your head to be like, hey, is there anything that we should be depressed or anxious about? We're just going to run this emotion through the system to see if it picks up on anything in the environment that we need to be aware of. Yeah. And then when you don't see the thing and you're like, what am I depressed about? Well, when you have 2 broken feet, your brain goes, this is what you're depressed about. You're depressed about 2 broken feet right now. You're like, oh, okay. That's what and there's something like relieving about that.
Oh, yeah. The title of the Bertrand Russell book, Conquest of Happiness, talks about unhappiness with no seemingly, physical cause is all the more unbearable because it seems inescapable. If there's no thing you can focus on, that's why it's like, oh shit, it's so abstract that I have no chance against this thing. Exactly.
And then it got rough, the second surgery and everything. But then when I remember being excited the first time I rode a bicycle, because I knew I could do that before walking because there's less pressure and everything. And then I like got on a cane for a while, and then I was on a cane for like a month. And then I had the thought that this is what my foot's going to be like for the rest of my life. And it's just never going to get better from here. And that was absolutely miserable. Because before that, it was just everything was just going to keep on getting better. You break your feet and then you're at the bottom. And then just every day is getting better. You're in less pain. You're healing. Like every day is getting better from there.
Gains every day.
Yeah.
Guaranteed gains.
Yeah. And then once the gains stopped showing up, I was like, oh no. And that was brutal. And then today, many years later, it's just not that big a deal. It still bothers me some. I would say it keeps me from doing some of the things, or certainly becomes an excuse of like, I almost joined CrossFit.
You can never river dance, right?
Yeah, the river dancing was the hardest thing for me to let go of. So it was like the day I was going to start river dancing classes was the same day I broke my feet. But so there's things that have never been the same, but it's also been on those days I'm just like, oh, this is what it's like to be 80, but everywhere. Like how my foot feels right now, that's just what my body will feel like one day. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess you can still work with it and stuff, and you got your mind and everything. It's just limiting in certain ways. And then I have weeks where I never notice it. And I'm sure with just a leg surgery, probably you're going to have 100% recovery. A leg isn't as complicated as a foot or like a hand.
We talk about looking at things, going day by day, but even day by day, don't count on it working every day.
No.
Like give healing a day off too.
Yeah.
Like if you healed for 7 days straight and then on the 8th day you're stagnating, that's okay. The healing needs to take some time. Sometimes the loading screen is stuck at 70%. But it doesn't mean it's frozen. Sometimes it'll jump to 71 in a little bit.
So when you say I'm at the point where I feel like I should be capable of much more, I would say if you can do yourself a favor and just be like, this is it. This is as good as it's going to get. Then you're going to like just eat all of that disappointment now. Get that disappointment over with. And then whatever bits of like recovering happens is just going to be a bonus. And then if you do make 100% recovery, you'll get to be like, holy fuck, awesome. I told myself that I was never going to be the same. And then you're going to be that much more grateful for that. That's what I would go back in time and tell myself. That was because that was the hardest part, was that moment, like a month into using a cane, because I used a cane for like a year at least, and month into using a cane,
it blended in.
Yeah. Cane's not
I like
a bad
started
book.
to not even notice it when you had it.
Yeah.
No, it gives you some swagger.
Yeah.
And you've got a weapon on hand, and there's always something to do with it. Like you can lean on it, you can spin it around. When you're just standing there with nothing in your hands, what do your hands do? Put them in your pockets? No. Fidget with them? No. Leave them just by your sides? No. There's nothing to do with them.
Yeah. So get a dope ass custom cane. Spend some time, look for like wood canes. You're probably going to want a couple of them because one of them might break. After you search for it, don't be surprised if custom cane ads show up in your Facebook feed for some time afterwards. Long after you've recovered. Get a dope ass cane because it might be around if you have a bad day, and then you can have a cool looking thing that you're used to. I thought recently, I was like, you know what? I should get an awesome cane again, because I had one and then it broke. And then
how did it break?
It was like in a car and something smashed against it. Like when I was moving, it had like a bunch of stuff piled on top of it accidentally. Yeah.
Not just walking across the street.
But I got like a double helix spinning thing, like all custom this and that. And I was thinking I should get that by the Campout, by the time the Campout comes around, because I know I'm going to be walking around like the whole weekend, and
you can be like the Jurassic Park guy.
Much on
like
my
the
foot.
Big door opens and then he like slowly walks out.
Oh, and I have another slowly walks.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. Is that what he sounds like? Sure, it is now. So. That's my new character, old guy from Jurassic Park, the character.
I was trying to remember the scene, and then it started to click in. Like, oh, that's a good reference. I would also say maybe depending on where you're at, try hiking. So rather than something like a treadmill or being on a street where your leg or foot or whatever is doing the exact same movement over and over and over and over again, that can be a little bit much for recovering. Whereas hiking seems harder, but because of the variation and all the different angles and everything else, it will, even though it might feel harder at the time, really good way to tune up all those like fine muscles and everything else. And even if it's more sore.
That's good advice.
That's real good advice. Yeah, I highly, highly recommend that. Boom. You got another one from Instagram? Thanks,
of course,
Mitch,
the Vice
for your
Boys.
support.
All right. I don't know if I should go chronologically or should I pick the best one? Chronologically, I will pick. I want to pick a really good one. So that's too similar. Okay, here's a good one. Pearls _have_ eyes writes, moving soon. Advice to make sure it is an easy move. Maybe even too easy.
You just
First
moved.
thing that comes to mind. Yeah, first thing comes to mind is expect that you won't have internet for a long time. Just get in that mindset that you're just not going to have it. And it's going to be a long, arduous journey, but eventually you might get it again one day. The other advice is go a little smaller, like with boxes. You want like those 12 cases of beer sized boxes for books and things like that. You're going to think that you can put it in bigger boxes, but it adds up quick. So just go lots of little boxes. And then you're probably thinking, oh, you mean medium to large boxes? No, just real small boxes, lots of small boxes, as far as the eye can see. Small box, smallbox.org. That's my advice.
I have some advice from someone who loves throwing things out, but also holds on to things for way too long. So every time I've moved, I've just gotten rid of everything. Many times through the years, I've gotten to the point where I can fit basically everything that I own in a car, like when multiple times, and then like built up again, had furniture, done things like that, and then like, nope, starting over again. And I would allow yourself a little extra time for that process to enjoy all of the sentimental memories and stuff that will pop up from like sorting through a lot of those things, and then just burn that shit. Let it go. You don't need it like you think that you do. Especially if there's nothing sentimental attached to it. Just get rid of as many things as possible.
Read that Marie Kondo book, Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And I know that we all know the concept behind it, but reading it again, it's got some gems you forget about.
Yeah. You actually read the book?
Of course.
Nice.
Read the book, listened to the interviews with the lady, tried the show, read the sequel. Actually, I don't know if there is a sequel. No, I think the sequel is just like a visual version of it or something, but it's good. It makes you feel good about throwing stuff out. I wish I was throwing stuff out right now. I want to throw this out. That felt good. You harness the power of the destroyer god, and you feel like you are in charge of killing people. You're the Grim Reaper. Yeah. Like, I get to destroy these objects and banish them to a landfill, or even worse, someone else's house.
Also, it's good to just get in the habit of ripping those Band-Aids once in a while, because seems like there's just a lot of people that reach around the age of 60 or something like that, and it just gets harder and harder and harder to throw them. You don't want to live your twilight years surrounded in just weird boxes of like memories.
I thought teenager is twilight years.
Oh, is it?
No, I was just making a werewolf vampire joke. Because of that movie, Twilight.
Yeah. Oh, but is that right or wrong? No, Twilight years is wrong. The final years of a person's life. Yeah, I looked it up. In retirement, because there's a lot of. It seems like something about aging like that just comes along with. Now that I'm 42 and know more and more people that are like older and over 60, boy, seems like people love holding on to a whole bunch of crap that does them way more harm than good, way more, and then it becomes unmanageable. But I was reading Stanhope's book about his mom, and his mom was a big time hoarder too. But that
sounds right.
Then it's made me. It's made me know, like, I was at Easter with my grandparents and stuff recently, and every time I see my grandparents and they talk about their friends, they always talk about which ones are hoarders now. And I always like, it's sad, it's terrible, and yeah. But anyway, so I would say enjoy that, and I would say hire someone to move all your crap for you, especially if you got like a piano or something like that. Hire someone that just does this every day and knows how to get around a corner without knocking the thing off, like your new place that you got that now you need to repaint because you bumped up against it because like it was a light enough chair and everything else, but you're just not used to having to pay attention to moving chairs around and things for 8 hours straight, and you forgot. And now you got to fix crap in your brand new place. So that's something.
And and download all the mums to a hard drive because you ain't getting internet for a while.
Yeah. I was thinking about that the other day of like, it'd be fun to sell iPods, like mum pods or something to people, that it's just all the mum episodes and you can plug your headphones into it and that's it. You can't do anything. You can't do anything don't we need to else die? With it.
Or we need to die or end the show. Otherwise it would be out of date.
Yeah, you would need new ones.
Unless it had a Wi-Fi connection that only downloads new mums from a server somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably a stupid, dumb idea that's never going to work.
No, we could sell it in Sky Mall Sky Mall magazine or something.
All right. Well, we haven't had a lady yet. For some, so
we didn't. I thought what's her face was. I was just gendering everyone. Nope. Looks like it's dude.
This isn't just some show by dudes for dudes. We got a Megindeth asking us for some Patreon advice as well. She says, how do you manage high functioning anxiety like people pleasing and being a perfectionist? Any tips? This seems like one that you're more on this side of than I am, even if you aren't those
people pleasing.
You seem like both like a little bit of a people pleaser and a perfectionist to me, at least from like where I am, which is neither of those things, not by a mile. I could stand to be a little more of each. Like I'm proud of myself.
Choose
when I see people and I'm like, have a great day. Like I try to throw out stuff like that now because I've been such a grumpy introvert and stuff my whole life. Like I'm not going to talk to anybody. So now I tell the
grocery cashier, have a good one before they even tell me to have a good one. There
quicker. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I say have a good one and they might have not even said had a good one. And I'm telling them to have a good one before.
Yeah.
And having a good one is great because I don't even say what the thing is, just one. Have a good one.
But you don't seem like you have anxiety related to this, but you do. You just seem like
no,
like you have it, like definitely. I don't know. Do you? I think that you're maybe a little bit of a perfectionist, or more than I am, anyway. I mean, your stuff is. You put out a lot of like finished products. I feel like everything that I always do is a work in progress. You know, that's what I liked about stand up and everything is it's never finished and it's never like everything's just kind of like, yeah, it's an evolving thing.
Yeah, it's alive.
With being an illustrator, you're like, and done. I feel like you have to have built that muscle for putting the finishing touches on a thing.
But can you read the question again?
Yeah.
It's about anxiety towards people pleasing.
How do you manage high functioning anxiety like people pleasing and being a perfectionist?
I wasn't aware that's called high functioning anxiety.
Well, this is, I think in her case, this is how her high functioning anxiety expresses itself.
I see. I heard something from Brene Brown, I think, about choose discomfort over resentment or something. So in other words, like it's uncomfortable to say no, instead of saying yes and then resenting the person. Like, hey, can you come pick me up from the airport tomorrow at 4 a.m? No, because it's my aunt's funeral or something. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying yes and then resenting them because you missed your aunt's awesome funeral that was going to have a bouncy castle and donuts or whatever it was going to be there. And, man, I don't know. I know it's the advice episode, but we also said that we would only undent your can a little bit. So
I don't have any. This might be one where I don't have.
Snap out of it. Snap out of it. That's a good one.
Snap the fuck out of it. How about that? How
Yeah,
about
recognize
stop
when
it?
you're doing that. recognize when you're buying the lie and you're about to do something that you truly don't want to do, but you're just trying to not cause that little discomfort. Because truthfully, we love people who know who they are and own up to it. And then, like, for example, Brent Weinbach, for one of our friends' birthday, he's like, hey, we're going to go to this bar, Lubitsch or something. We're going to get some drinks. You should come. And he'll just be like, no, that's not really my vibe, but maybe we'll hang out afterwards. But he won't go to the birthday thing because no, it's a loud bar. I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
And doesn't make up an excuse of like, oh, I'm busy there. So there's no lie. There's no commitment thing. He's free during that time. But since that's not what he wants to do, he says it and owns it, and no one judged him for it. It's like, oh, I'm glad you were just straightforward with me about that.
I will so boy, I don't want to I'm
piss in my canoe.
I don't want to piss in the canoe around.
I don't want to throw ice cream in your mother's casket.
I don't want to like mansplain something because I can't pretend like I know what the female experience is. However, I spend probably at least as much time each week, if not more, talking with female friends as I do talking with Ramin. So a fucking ton. And a lot of things that I think is a pattern. And it's multiple, like, professional, smart people with like tons of stuff going on. Some dummies.
There's smart, average intelligence, idiots, all of them. I talk to all of them. And the one pattern I've noticed is...
One pattern is that I usually find myself giving the advice to be a little more honest than what you're comfortable doing. Because I don't know that it's a female thing or something like that, but I don't know if it's because females are just generally more affiliative and just like often better communicators, that if sometimes they're more worried about rocking the boat or something like that. But I've with many of my friends, it seems like they don't. A lot of times I'm like, well, maybe the other person actually just doesn't know this is where you're coming from or whatever else. And you might be surprised if you're just a little more honest with people, what it will give you, or even just, I don't know. I guess I give that advice for like, if someone's doing stand up or podcasting or anything else, I'm just like, have you tried just being like a hair more honest with people than you're comfortable being?
Yeah.
And just see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Start with the word no, but use it joyfully. Like, you want to go skydiving tomorrow? No.
And not even as a
Except some people might want to skydive. Skydiving is cool.
And not even like what was the person that you said who gave the advice, the discomfort advice, the Brene Brown. Yeah. So not even like, this is how you get what you want and you living. You might be surprised how many people really enjoy hearing more honest things, and it like just takes a while to. It's just a muscle that you have to build, being honest with people, and like and just. I'm very comfortable telling people if they have like something off or whatever, or something, because there's oftentimes a lot of times can just be resolved by like people knowing what you're thinking. Like, you just weren't on the same page, and there's no way the other person could know that you felt a certain way or something like that, and you weren't telling them. and being honest about things helps people like work together and resolve things more. I wish I had more specific examples of this. I don't know. We do it a lot in
let's keep it vague, evergreen.
This is like we have a mom team meeting tomorrow, and this is one of the things that I've been trying to impress upon everyone lately. Like, don't hide like an issue from me or something like that, or just like do something because you don't want to like bother me or whatever else. Just like tell me what it is, because there might be, if we all do that, one of us might have a really easy solution that we already know that fixes everything and makes all of our lives better just from being like a little more honest about it or whatever, you know? So there's
people, we want honesty, but don't say like, oh, you look like you're losing your hair. You look like, like say if the outfit sucks, but don't be like, oh, you're looking kind of like, you look like you're aging and you're tired. You look every day. You look like more tired and aging-y.
Yeah, you might.
There's a fine line, but honest for yourself, like honest about your reality is what's important.
Yeah, there's people that have some sort of region of their brain that what part of it where they have
the hyperfrontal cortex.
Yes, exactly. Where it's inhibited in some way because of an injury or a stroke or something like that. They'll just be like, oh, looks like you're putting on weight. And then their spouse or whatever is horrified, and they don't understand, like, on the ride home, and they're like, why would you say that? They're like, because it's true. Why wouldn't I say, like, so if you have some like weird abnormality, keep a lid on it. I don't think Megindeth is at risk of telling people that they're becoming obese and their hair's thinning in grotesque ways that makes them worse to look at. I don't think that's the situation. I think there's a long way from probably where she's at to where she's going, but I don't know. I hope I'm not. I hope I'm not everyone's different.
There was a friend of mine with alopecia, you know, the Jada Smith hair loss thing, or I think it was that, or something related to white blood cell counts being gone, and was wearing a wig, but you know, behind the wig you can see that it's no hair there. And then one of our friends that's very honest, like, just walked into the room not knowing this and goes like, did you shave the back of your fucking head? And then everyone else in the room just all of a sudden went like, and she was really cool about it. She's like, actually, I have a condition where I'm not producing white blood cell, and then explained it nicely. But that's another one of those.
And then what did that person do?
Be careful.
Go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I felt horrified, but it was all good. It was all amongst friends, and
I just think
easy thing to not know.
I just think with coworkers and things of that nature, and sometimes even family members and stuff, just getting it out there what you actually want. You might be surprised that like that person you were uncomfortable telling someone something, and then they're like, "Oh, I've been wanting to bring that up as well." So I don't know. People might enjoy it as long as you're not telling people. Some people are babies, though.
Some people.
Yeah, some people are babies.
Sometimes they don't react the way you want, and that's a good thing to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you know that they're people that weren't worth being
wieners.
They weren't people worth being anxious about. Anyway. Want to do one more from Instagram, and we'll scoot boots.
Let's get the gram going. Okay, relax is a verb, right? So like, how important is it to get into a relationship? Or like, I don't even know. How old is this person? Oh, I should have picked a female.
No,
females.
How important is it to get into a relationship? No idea.
It's only important as it is to you. It doesn't matter what the outside world thinks. Do what's true to you. Be true to you. Stay in school. Don't do the drugs. And let's pick this other one because that's a quick one.
All right.
right? Or did you want to expand on that?
I can say that I've been as happy and as miserable outside of when I was a teenager and was like, what if I never get a girl? Outside of that, but like once I was in relationships, I've found that I've been just as happy and not happy in and out of relationships. I like relationships, think they're cool, but they also come along with other shit too. And I haven't dated in like over a year, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm lonely. But that doesn't even happen that much. But so I don't know.
I thought you said your DMs were full of it.
I've been having springtime. Springtime has something going on. There's a lot of springtime, and people moving past COVID has people feeling a little more frisky than normal. So yeah, there's been more things sliding into DMs lately.
Nice. Oh, but this other question actually is like it's on the same topic kind of, but even better. I think it's more holistic and talks about relationships.
I like that every time. I like that we're going to be doing this show for like the next 10 years. And anytime I talk about ladies, you're just, from here on out, you're just going to go, nice. And that's our shtick. All right. You had another one?
Yeah, just anything referring to anything. Or even, I should even expand it to like dudes. Even if a dude messages you about friendship stuff, you'd be like, nice, get a new friend going. Or maybe experiment, who knows. So this Caitlin Mosh writes, any advice for chronic overthinkers, especially when it comes to obsessive overthinking about one's own mental health and relationships? I struggle with this a lot, and sometimes it can be difficult to find clarity. The mind is never going to shut up. That's what it does. Like Sadhguru talked about how you would never want your kidney to stop doing what it does. You would never want your heart to stop beating, yet we're always telling our mind to stop thinking, but that's not what it does. The point of the mind is to think, and it's a really good tool. But the problem is when that's your master instead of you being the master of your own mind. So just recognize when you are overthinking and stop treating it like the boss, and like walk away from it. Don't try to shut the stream off, but just step away from the stream. It's still going to be talking to you, but step away from the car.
Yeah.
Meditation can help. It won't shut off thoughts, but try to practice the muscle of not taking thoughts seriously and get into your body more. Put on some grooves, shake your hips, go for a walk.
Shake your hips.
Yeah. Shake your thang.
I like that advice. I like that. This whole episode, there's a person that's gotten nothing so far, and then right at the end, someone's like, maybe I'll shake my thing. And then that changes their whole life.
Yeah. But this is a tough one. I think we both struggle with overthinking and stuff, and how it deals with
advice.
It's always going to try to trick you. It's the devil. Not that you should live without thoughts, because going back to it, the mind is an excellent tool. It is supposed to dissect stuff and look for problems. And we have the negativity bias, and it's how we've evolved to this point. And it's good. We should not wish it to go away, but also don't let it sit in the boss's chair. It's a very good employee, but keep it as an employee, even though it dresses up like the boss and says it's the boss, but you got to like let the artist do its work. Like, yeah, I know it says it's the boss, but I know that I am the boss, not the cognitive thoughts. Because even the cognitive thoughts aren't the main part of the brain. There's the subconscious thing. There's the limbic system. There's like so many other brain things doing stuff that you don't see, but the thoughts are like look, scan for problems, dissect that. What does this mean? Am I good? I'm bad. Uh-oh. And it's all stupid ass language. Imagine if we didn't have language. What would that be like in there? Would it just be visual berating yourself? I wonder if it's worse because we have language. Language is great, but it's also, we're using it to attack ourselves in our head. It's very creative with crafting stories with words in our head, and we can't turn it off.
Yeah, we have a label for why the things we don't like about ourselves. Otherwise, it's just like a color that you experience and don't care for. I think that probably when my overthinking is at its worst, it's when I try to avoid it the most, and that makes it worse. So again, like Ramin has a healthier relationship with TV than I do, but when I watch TV, I'm watching it as an escape.
You're watching it as a what?
As an escape.
Oh, yeah.
Ramin watches TV like, that'll be a nice thing to do. I'll watch TV right now. I watch it as like, I got to get my mind off of things. I'll watch TV right now. And I'm always better so I had a super lazy day. Today I decided that I was going to, because I've been up super, super late, and I've been drinking coffee till later and later at night. Sometimes like 2 a.m. I'm still drinking coffee and staying up really late. I've been super productive, but it's getting later and later, and coffee does less, but I'm drinking more of it. And so today I was like, no coffee, no sugar. I'm just going to see how long I can go without it, because it's becoming such a dependency. And I just laid in bed exhausted all day. I literally was like, do I have Lyme's disease? Do I have COVID right now? And I'm like, no, Shane, you just aren't drinking coffee. That's why you have no energy. And I got up when I normally would, like 10. And then I got up and like read something for 30 minutes. And then I slept for like another 3 hours or something like that. And then I got up, and then I'm like, no, I'm just going to eat and drink water. I'm not going to, and I slept more. And then I went to pickleball, and then I was just dragging ass at pickleball. And I'm like, oh, I'm addicted. This is just coffee withdrawal. That's what that feels like.
Why would you do the sugar too? Why would you not take it one day at a time?
That's a good question. But I would also like, because of Easter, there's just been a bunch of like Easter candy and crap around here. Nice. And it's just, I just feel like I OD'd on stupid like Peeps and chocolates and things. I'm not a moderation person. I'm an all or nothing kind of guy. So anyhow, the reason why it's relevant is because I laid in bed a bunch today, an amount that old Shane would have felt guilty about. And it made me grateful for the job that I have, because even though I have been working like 12-hour days lately, it's awesome that the day that I want to just lay in bed and do nothing all day, I can do that. At the drop of the hat, I can just be like, all right, I'll just sleep all day because I just can't move. All right, I can just do that, and I don't need to worry. And it made me, and I was overthinking, and I was anxious, and then I just thought, I gotta remember how great it is to just lay around and do nothing, or just sit around and do nothing. Because usually with overthinking, I'll like play a board game, I'll find a distraction. So I'm actually doing something to get me out of the overthinking, but just collapsing in bed and just letting the overthinking do its thing. That's always just, now that I'm free of like the guilt that I would have had about doing that, say 5-10 years ago. I think it's I think it's the healthiest, best, I dare to say some of the most productive time that I have is just laying in bed doing Zippo, like maybe reading, and that's it. No computer, no nothing, just laying there with my thoughts.
It's punk rock, isn't it? Sometimes I'll do that like as a protest to overwhelm, because my first instinct is, well, I'll read a book, I'll do stuff on the computer, I'll look at phone. No. I'm just going to lie down and not even sleep. What do you think of that?
Good. Yeah. It's
like so just protest, nonviolent protest reality. Like, hey, one of the characters stopped moving. Is he sleeping? No. He just stopped there.
Yeah.
Is the computer broken?
Because most people get done with work and then they go right to TV or whatever to wind down. That's like what they do to wind down. Like, well, you aren't totally unwinding because you're still focused on something. Just let the bombardment happen and do it when you're just like in bed, like, just let all of the overthinking attack your brain from the safety of a cozy bed, and just let that process happen and be miserable or whatever else. But I think you'd be surprised how many creative insights and everything and clarity and things like that. I always come up with great ideas, and I won't even bother writing them down at that time. Whatever ones stick around and end up helping me later, terrific. But this is my time to do nothing at all and not feel guilty about it. Yeah. I recommend trying that if you can manage it, even at a lunch break. When I was working in factories and stuff, I would always take naps or whatever on lunch breaks. Even just like people say they're bad at napping. I'm always like, well, I don't always nap, but why I'm so good at napping and sleeping is because I don't care. If I lay down for a nap, I don't care if I actually fall asleep or if I just commit to closing my eyes for 20 or 30 minutes, and whatever happens in my brain. You can't
try to fall asleep.
Yeah. And then just like let whatever happens. Eyes closed. I don't think you need I don't think it needs to be a serious meditative focusing on the breath. I think that's great too to try out, but I don't think it needs to be anything at all. Yeah. That's my overthinking solution. And it's not a great one because I still overthink the hell out of life, but it's something.
I'm going to do it right after this episode. Like, did I give the right advice? Was I boring on this one?
You weren't boring. It was a real good one. I like it. I feel like I'm
boring on like 80% of. Oh, Advicey Dicey. I loved our Advicey Dicey episode.
No.
Yeah, or just 80%. Not good enough.
Yeah.
20% of the time, I'm like, that was a good one. And then 80% of the time, I'm like, what was it? It was just a gray chair of an episode from me.
I mean, I get that feeling that we have afterwards, but nah, I mean, I guess I experienced that same thing. All right. So first of all, we're going to do more of these. If you want, to contribute, make sure we always prioritize our Patreon people first, because not only will you get included in these advice column episodes and Q&A episodes, but you also can get your own Mind Under Art episode for only $5. For just $5 a month, you can support the show, get your own episode, and check out the art episodes. They're terrific. They're just as good as the regular show, but different.
Sometimes better.
We just had a banger. I think we're going to put a bonus one out for free soon again, so people can get a taste of it. We have, let's see. Oh, man. I just wanted to give a shout out to Be Right On, Brighton Kilgore, our lunatic. We have two lunatics, and one is anonymous. the only way to meet our anonymous lunatic is to come to the Campout in September, which hopefully we'll have the poster and tickets up by May 1st. But go on the Discord in the meantime. We got a lot of fun conversations going in there, talking about, let's see, today's conversation was about me rebirthing people through my urethra. So that was fun. I posted a thing about Aubrey Marcus has some sort of thing that like collecting, you can come and like be rebirthed by Aubrey Marcus. And so
how much? I'm there.
It's so much money. It's how we have ours is going to be $222. It's because I got a sense of like the lowest number anyone when I asked said was like $75. I was like, well, there's no way we could pull it off for that. And then some people would be like, oh, I'd pay like $400 for that. I arrived at $200, and then I'm like, well, everything's a little more expensive than you think it's going to be, and crunch some numbers. And I'm like, how can it not be $222? Well, all of Aubrey Marx's things are like, it's $3,333 for 3 days at a thing. It's $4,444, and it's all just
nice,
weird, creepy stuff. He's making a killing off of that.
And
so
I think it's easier when you are rich to think of like, no, people can come for 3,000. People can come for 10,000, because isn't Tony Robbins stuff really expensive too?
Yeah, super expensive.
Yeah.
So
I need to look those up. I didn't know he was offering baptisms.
Rebirthing. I was like, I want to do some rebirthing of people.
Does he pour like you like immerse yourself in Onnit MCT oil and then you come out
I don't know.
new?
It's just, I dated a girl for a while whose family was
nice,
born again Christians, and they were like, I don't know if it's gonna work out with, he's not born again. She'd be like, but he was raised Catholic, but he's got to be born again. Like, what's that even?
Yeah, doesn't that imply you screwed up?
Yeah, like what if I'm just still which I wasn't, I was an atheist, but she didn't, as far as they knew, I was just born a Christian, always has been a Christian, but that wasn't good enough. You need to like fall out and be born again and reborn. It's a
weird
whole weirdness. So Brighton has an art show called FOMO. He's out of Asheville. You can go to @BeRightOn to check out his work. It's happening at the Revolve Gallery in Asheville, North Carolina, for the entire month of May, and the opening night is going to be May 8th. By the way, when you join Patreon, you don't get to be like, hey, plug this or that. We just select things to promote once in a while that we're excited about for you, especially from our lunatics, of course. So thank you, Brighton, for the support. And if it weren't for our two lunatics coming in that just pumped enthusiasm into our show, we probably wouldn't be like now doing a festival.
Shane wouldn't be here.
Else, so
he'd be hanging in a barn somewhere.
So very much appreciate it. He's like in the studio upgrades and stuff. All right. So what did we learn today? What was some of the memorials of today's show?
The moral of the story is I saw a theme, a pattern of small, incremental, like moving, do small boxes, career. Mm-hmm. Don't try to think of a big career. Take little steps of what you like. Small, healing. Don't try to do it all at once. It's like give it a little more. Heal day by day and even give a day off. So one step at a time-ness is a big theme.
Work with the jalopy you have. We aren't Oprah. We're not giving away a new car. You aren't walking out of this show a new person with a new car, your whole life changed. No, you're walking out, taking a new look at that jalopy and being like, you know what? Yeah, I can put another a little zip tie on that bumper there.
Yeah.
And maybe it won't drag on the ground when I'm driving. That's
Zip ties
all
are
we're
pretty
looking
sturdy.
to do. That's all we're looking to do for your life. Just a little bit.
What about instead of a new car? Has anyone done this? Like everyone reach under their seat and then you just put already chewed gum at the bottom of the seat.
Yeah.
It's gum. Pretty gross, right? Everyone touching the gum. And then it's like, that's reality.
Grateful.
There's no car waiting for you. You want gum that's not been chewed? You have to go to the store and buy it yourself.
So yeah, that's the show. I hope you guys improve your vehicle of life in some small incremental way. And until next time,
Keep on salivating, honeys. Ding.
Matter.